Once again to our YouTube channel. Please, I would admonish you to kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel so that whenever we update, you receive notification, and also like and comment. And there are any questions or as you send us to do certain videos, you can email us also. Today, we're still on political institution, but we're looking at the legislature. And our learning objective for today will be explain the meaning and origin of the legislature, identify names of legislature in different countries, describe the main functions of the legislature, outline the life and the leadership of the legislature, distinguish between unicameral and the bicameral system, state the reason, advantage, and problems of both systems, and we'll give a summary of the process of the lawmaking process. You see a picture over here, which is what you see is the Rome Senate, which is speaking in the chamber where another man is pointing at him whilst others what listen, as you can see on the picture on my right also. So this in this particular picture, uh, you find the Senate engaging in debate session where you can see that they engage in having to share ideas or debate over what over issues. So the issues of the legislature predates and then even existed in the Greek era where they also ponder, discuss, and debate over issues. The origin of the word legislature derived from the Latin word lex, meaning law, and latus, meaning side. Latus refers to being or beginning. So legislature literally means the law-making side or arm of government. Their main focus over the time is to make sure they make laws for the country. But the other functions of the legislature, when we carry along, you'll come to know of these functions also. The name of the legislature in different countries, the legislature is referred to by different names. In the United States, it's Congress. When it comes to Ghana, UK, and Singapore, it's Parliament. Kenya, Turkey, and Tunisia, it's the National Assembly. You come to Japan, it is Diet. It comes to Norway, Sorting. You have that of what the Knesset by Israel. You have the Netherlands State General. A lot. Every country, most countries, and how they refer to their legislature. So these are some of the few countries that we picked, and then the names that they use in referring to their legislature. You see a picture that depicts that of the one on our right hand top corner is the Parliament of Ghana, which is the name referred to the legislature. The one you see beneath is that of Israel, the Knesset, and then you also have other countries and how they refer to their legislature over here. Canada refers to that as a parliament, China, the National People's Assembly. These are all other countries that also have names in which they refer to their legislature. And you see the forecourt or the pictures of the structure of the legislative house in which these discussions or these debates actually goes on in this particular picture. So we're going to look at the functions of the legislature. The primary function of the legislature is to create, amend, or repeal laws. So you remember that in Ghana, the criminal library law, when President John Ajay Kufuor in his first term came to office, it was actually repealed, which was one law that actually did not allow used to criminalize certain speeches. And then this particular law was repealed from Ghana's what constitution to allow free speech. And then that's what has led to a lot of media houses and people being able to speak freely in some context or in stuff. So that's an example of a law of what a repealed law. There's been also amendment of the Dicta Act to suit the current times and challenges that also has existed. There's been law that has been passed, which is the Right to Information Act now, which is a law. Hope you're getting me. So all these are examples of laws that has come to be. So you find that a parliament passes acts each year or amends the Income Tax Act, Parliament passes acts such as the Right to Information Act, and all those things are laws that Parliament do. And this is more like their primary objective or their primary what duty. So I'll say that there is no law that no law exists until Parliament passes a bill and the President what assents to it. There are other functions of Parliament that would want to look at, which is the control of the public purse. So the approval or approves what budget and financial what matters. So Parliament approves the national budget, loans, taxes, and then monitor spending. So what you realize is that the Minister for Finance lays the budget before Parliament, and then you find the Parliament Finance Committee scrutinize this particular budget at what the committee levels or various committee levels also what scrutinizes. Even in terms of control of the public purse, you find that the Public Account Committee sits when the Auditor General's report is available to question MMDCs and MMDAs and the rest and call people who they feel have to answer questions for their spending and then how they actually go about how they do certain things in terms of financing at this particular what departments. So they also what about the control of what the public what uh, uh, purse. They actually protect or control the public purse in that nature. And then there's also what supervisory role. So what we mean by that is that they question ministers, they approve key appointment and then investigate ministers. Or so what you find over here is that the vetting of ministers is by Parliament. So you've over the years you find out that the president nominates ministers and then the Parliament actually sits down to vet these ministers by asking them questions and then also having to agree on the committee level if they are approved. If not so, if there's no uniformity at the committee level, it comes to the floor, they still have to cast a vote on these particular ministers. That shows you the supervisory role of Parliament when it comes to the vetting and approval of ministers. And then question time for sector ministers. There are times in which issues happen that sector ministers will be what called to Parliament to come and answer certain questions. So if you remember very well, when there was the the flash spillage that happened in when the Akosombo Dam was opened, you realize that certain people were actually certain ministers were called to come and explain the current issues, what is happening, what they are doing to help the people, and all those things. So these are all part of what question time where ministers can be called. Also, committee of inquiries also can be into what can also be set to go into procurement of project and all these things. So these are what we refer to as what the supervisory role of Parliament. And then the other point has to do with judicial function. One may ask yourself, how does Parliament deal with or come in when it comes to judicial function? How do they do this? So they handle impeachment or censure procedures. So if you remember very well, uh, under the second term of the former President Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, as finance minister, which was Ken Ofori-Atta, was censored by that particular parliament to come and answer some questions. And you realize that this censor, this process was actually carried out by members of parliament who were that particular committee that was formed. So a minister can be censored, and if a president would be impeached, will actually go to parliament. So this particular functions is seen as what as a quasi judicial function, a quasi judicial function. So a quasi judicial function. So you remember that the power that gives Parliament that particular authority to be able to do a censure, the vote of censure against a minister, is the Art 81, which is the removal procedure which is in the Constitution is defined, and how a minister can be what can be censored, and then perhaps a vote may be carried or removed if need or necessary. So all these things is why we say they have judicial what function. For you to understand, Parliament is not a regular court, but it has limited judicial what type powers in what accountability processes. That's what I want you to put in mind. Yeah, and then the other functions we want to look at is representation. So MPs voice the needs and the preference of their constituencies on the floor of Parliament. They make cases for their constituents and what they need. So you find them making statements on the floor of Parliament on roads, on schools, on having to get some of their chip compound or whatever. All these are part of the representation we're talking about. So when you find the fact that there are disasters at their local level, there's flood or this, you find MPs advocating for emergency relief funds to their constituents when they stand on the floor of Parliament to make all these particular cases to to gather national attention, so that government also has attention on those constituents who may have actually what have suffered some of these issues or these natural disasters. Deliberation. So there's a national debate on policies before discussion. So this debate on the state of the nation address that President does, it helps situate things in place for us to know what to amend, what not to amend, what to help. So sometimes you realize that even the debate process, the Ministry of Finance or whatever bill that has been sent to Parliament can be withdrawn, and then you can see some amendment or one or two things being done to or being done to the bill even before it's brought back to the Parliament. So those who actually initiated the bill realize that sometimes they withdraw the bill, they go and then do some corrections, no amendments, some corrections, and then they bring it backward to the floor of Parliament. So some of this deliberation also helps leads to some of these input and this changes, which is for the good of the legislative process. Public education. So somebody will ask, how does this public education go? So it informs citizens through open debate, broadcast committee reports, and all these things. So we realize that over the period when you are doing the PAC hearing, the Public Account Committee hearing, people are glued to their seats. They learn a lot of things, how monies are spent, what is the right way to terms of having to issue monies and all these things. So all the activities of Parliament being done on radio, on TV, and all those things help to engage the public and educate them on the happenings or the modus operandi of what parliamentary procedures, and then what the national issues are and what members of their representative board are thinking about or what they are saying, which shapes their thinking and helps them understand the issues what better. So these are some of the functions of what legislature. So you see the picture of the Speaker of Parliament on my right top corner. Then you see that of a picture from the BBC, which is showing the setting of the President, the Speaker over there in that regard. You also see that of the one at the top corner, that's a parliamentary chamber. You see an area picture of that also. Yeah. And then moving to the life of the legislature. The life of the legislature has to do with the sitting. The first one is sitting, which is when we say sitting, we are saying a one-day official meeting. So the life of the legislature basically refers to the period during which an elected members of parliament members are officially what in office. So carrying out parliamentary business. So it is organized by several teams with different period of what of event or describing different period of what of events. So this life of the legislature is what we're going to look at, which is have to do with first one has to do with a certain one day official meeting. So a sitting is a one official day when members of parliament or legislature, which is like parliament or congress, meet to conduct business such as debating bills, asking questions, or making decisions. That is it. So in Ghana, mostly sittings may be around from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. or 10 to 5 p.m. So the next one has to do with session. So it's a series of sitting that runs continuously from the opening of parliament toward the promulgation or the formal closure or dissolving or end of parliament. So in Ghana, parliament usually has 4 sessions in its 4 years life cycle. The next one has to do with meeting, a group of continuous sitting within a session. So you find that parliament may meet daily for 2 weeks. That is one meeting inside a session. And then recess. Recess is an official holiday or break of parliament when MPs goes on, for example, Christmas break or a long vacation. Adjournment is a temporal closing of parliament at the end of a sitting for the day. So when the speaker says the house stands adjourned until tomorrow 10 p.m. or 10 a.m., you realize that is how it is. Promulgation. Promulgation is formal ending of a session of parliament, usually what announced by the president or speaker. That's promulgation. Yeah. And then dissolution is the complete end of the life of parliament. All seats are vacant and the election must be what? Must be held. So you see, this is a parliamentary calendar. So you see that in the fourth session of the eighth parliament of the Fourth Republic, parliamentary calendar for 2024, you see the sittings are 25 weeks, the recess are 24 weeks. You see them listed in that order. So even before that session start, this is done for parliament. So you can see an example of that of a calendar of the fourth session of the eighth parliament of the Republic of Ghana. Also, leadership of the House. So, one, the head or the presiding officer of Parliament is the Speaker of Parliament. That's how he's referred to. And this function is preside over debate and then maintain order. The Speaker also remains neutral and does not openly side with a party during debates, and then ensure fairness to both majority and a minority. So he also certifies bills for presidential assent. So no bill becomes law without the speaker's signature, and then acts as a link or liaison between parliament and other state organizations like the executive, the judiciary. Yeah. So in the fourth republic, the eighth parliament had Agman Kingsford Tsunami Bagman as a Speaker of Parliament. And then the Deputy Speaker's role has to do with assist the Speaker, take over when the Speaker is absent. So Ghana has the first and the second Deputy Speaker. Up getting me. So you realize that it was quite important to have both the first and second Deputy Speaker when we had a hung parliament between 2021 to 2024, which was more like the NDC having 137 seats, and then the NPP having 137 seats with one independent candidate. And then majority and minority leader. So the majority leader represents the party with the most seats, which is shadow businesses of the house, and then the minority leader represents the opposition, provides checks and alternative views. But they collaborate or they coordinate when it comes to debates and all share ideas and see how best they can help. So in Ghana's parliament between 2021 to 2024, we had Oseche Mensa Bonsu on the side of the MPP and Haruna Idrisu on the side of the NDC, which Honorable Kisfola Atoforsin took over. And also on the MPP side, you also had Honorable Afenyo Markin also taking over from him within the same 4 years parliamentary cycle. And then the whip is the party discipline, ensure that MPs attend sittings, vote according to party lines. That is it. So you realize that when in 2022 the MPP government was voting for the e-levy, one thing you realize was that party members were whipped in line by the party whip so that every member of parliament vote for the party in that regard. So you also see a picture of the Speaker of Parliament over there. The structure of the legislature, which is the unicameral, which is a one legislative chamber, example like Ghana, Finland, Denmark. Bicameral, two chambers, typically the House of Representatives has to do with lower or the Senate, which is the upper house. So some of the US, the UK, Nigeria, and then India. The tricameral system, which is not mostly, you don't find some mostly. It is very rare to get some of the tricameral that doesn't exist, apart from when it used to exist in South Africa when we have the whites, the colored, and then the Indians. Yeah. So what you see is a picture on your left side, the fourth court of the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. There's a one chamber. You see the total number of seats being 276. You see a description of the Nigerian legislative system where the Senate, which is 109, and then the House of Representatives, which is what 360 members. Also, reasons for adopting a unicameral legislature, which is avoid duplication. The first point is avoid duplication. So in the bicameral system, both houses may repeat the same work. So it will slow down progress. That's one thing. One chamber may have to go through, read through, and all those things. It slows up the process when it comes to bicameral. But when it comes to a unicameral system, these particular events are not repeated. So it prevents overlaps and confusion that can occur when two houses have similar or related duties. So if you don't take it, realize that in one breath, if it was the passage of an e-levy, you have one upper house having a lower house having to go through that, another house has to go through. So it's actually what it's more like a duplication of what of these particular functions. That's why we say avoid duplications. And then having to go to an analogy may be the fact that we'll say, for instance, if you're a student, think about it. Instead of, let's say, two teachers marking the same exam paper, one teacher marks and then finishes faster. That is how we're talking about in terms of avoid duplication. Less expensive. Less expensive. So when you're operating a one legislative chamber, it saves money on the facilities you have to use, the the salaries and stuff. Because, for example, if you're having a bicameral, you're going to have both staffs for all these chambers, and it's going to weigh on the public purse. So actually, what is less costly if you're practicing a unicameral legislature, where countries with less resources are able to practice this choice and then manage their finances very well. Also, it speeds lawmaking process. So since bill only need approval in one house, law can be passed more quickly, and there is no waiting for second chamber to review or debate the bill. Hope you're getting me. So, for example, the unicameral system of Ghana. So, as I said, in Ghana, the laws can be passed faster because the country just uses one chamber of parliament. No rivalry or conflict. So, with only one house, there is less chance for disagreement between chambers. So, a problem that often delays legislation in what in bicameral system is when you have a bicameral system, where, for example, in the United States, the Senate and the House sometimes disagree, leading to what we call a gridlock or a delay of the law process, which sometimes actually goes to at the disadvantage of what of the people who are actually waiting for some of these things to be passed and to actually what help them or alleviate their plight. So suitability for hegemonious state, sorry, homogeneous state. So when we talk about this, we are trying to say that when it comes to the unicameral system, um, works best in countries with cultural similar population and then less regional what diversity. So in such places, representation in one chamber is seen as a fair and what an adequate one. So for example, Ghana and then Finland fix this profile where you have that, so it makes it easy to run this particular system. And then problems of unicameral legislature. So the risks of passing haste legislation, because there's no second chamber to review this, mistakes or mostly maybe unpopular laws may be passed quickly. So for example, even though there were reservations and then there were reservations from civil society, from people and other people, the e-levy passed at a very fast rate because government wanted it passed. I hope you're getting me. So that's how some of these things is. Overburdened parliament. A single chamber has a hand on parliamentary work because they have to debate, oversight law, budget, review documents. Sometimes the documents are all bulky in all nature. So if it's so, you realize that sometimes the workload is so heavy that they may underperform because of the nature and the burdensome nature or huge nature of the parliamentary work. Because sometimes you find that parliamentarians struggle with a lot of backlog of bills because there is no second chamber to what? To share that particular what? Load. Because imagine you having a group work and one person is only one doing the group work. You have a lot on you. That's how it looks like. So then the lack of room for experienced men. So because we don't have a bicameral system, realize that the upper house often would include elderly statesmen, so experts or professionals who provide wisdom and guidance. So because you don't have this, mostly your experienced people may be out of office. Imagine that you had a system that had maybe President Jerry John Rawlings, the late president, as part of it, President Ajikun Kufuor, and other statesmen who actually distinguished themselves in a very respectable, nice manner to also offer counsel or be a second chamber. It would have actually also be immense benefit to the country at large. And then not suitable for federal or diverse state, as I said, because this a unicameral system is unitary or homogeneous country. In a federal or highly diverse, one house alone cannot fairly represent all what regions or ethnicity or interest. So, for example, Nigeria has a bicameral system because the Senate plus the Republic, because of the different regions and interests that are play in the country. The mode of selection members in the upper house when you're about to go to the bicameral, you realize that there's an elective process where people are elected, so members are chosen directly by the people through elections. So this makes the upper house democratic or accountable to the people. So the U.S. Senate, each state has elect or two senates. Then Australia Senate members are also elected by professional representation. The non-elective is members are appointed or nominated or inherit seats rather than what elected. So, this is include what experienced people, noble or specialists. So in the UK House of Lords, we have many members are appointed for life, or some by inheritance. And the Canada Senate also members appointed by the Governor General on the advice of the Prime Minister. And then Jordan too, the Senate is appointed by what? By the King. And then the mixed one has to do with some members are elected whilst others are what appointed or nominated. So there is a blend of democratic choices with expert what inputs. And then you find that India has this. You also find that France also operates this, and then Switzerland also operates this. So going on the next one, which has to do with what reviewing bills or revising and reviewing bills. We're looking at the bicameral legislature in terms of what is also what important or why countries adapt this. So the second chamber acts as a review body to correct errors or refine law passed by the first chamber. So sometimes because the bicameral the unicameral does it in a haste manner, I realize that this one is not his legislation is prevented, which actually also helps a lot because in the US you find like this, a bill is passed in the House of the representative, but must also be passed by the Senate, where it may amend or reject this particular bill. And then tapping expertise of elderly statesmen. So the upper house often include what experienced professionals, scholars, and then senior politicians. So they bring wisdom, they bring technical knowledge to what to lawmaking. So, for example, in the UK House of Lords, it includes senior judges, bishops, and experts in law or science and businesses. So, because it doesn't matter the angle the bills are coming from, you realize that all these people are able to offer great expertise and great reasoning and positions of these bills, and then the correct way it can be framed or amended, or the way it can be what coined in the nature that can actually help in terms of the interpretation and all those things that has to come. So things are done in a manner that makes it easy to understand those particular laws. So reduce legislative what burden. So split the work between two chambers, preventing overload on one house. So each chamber can what can specialize or focus on, let's say, on finance or other regional responsibility, other kind of stuff. It makes it easy. So in Nigeria, the Senate and the House of Representatives share what legislative what duty. Protect minority what interests. So each smaller state or region or ethnic group are not dominated by what majority rule in what in the lower house. So for example, in the US, small states like Delaware have the small number of what senators, as large state like California has the largest. So it's the second one has to do with difficult to what manipulate both chambers. So this is difficult for you to people to be lobby out on the chambers, because you cannot lobby both the House of Lords or the Senate and lobby. It becomes difficult. So two house makes it hard for one group or leader to dominate the lawmaking process. Sometimes you realize that a U.S. president may send a bill to Congress, they may approve it, but the Senate may ask for amendments because they don't agree. You get it? So it's not easy for, and then some members of the Senate can even disagree with a certain president, because it helps provide that extra checks and balances we are talking about. And then on the slice, um, this is the last one that we have to do with, as in why countries prefer. But on the next slide, which is the problems with bicameral legislature, which is expensive to run, because you're running two chambers. You have to have a lot of staff, buildings. You just have to also have that of a salary, logistics, and all these things become a strain on the national budget, because all this is from the coffers. So you realize that government used to spend a lot on all this legislative chamber, which becomes quite burdensome on the taxpayer. So it can be undemocratic in a sense that you realize that when we're looking at some of how some of these people are brought to bear, or come form part of the upper house or the Senate, some of them are not elected, some of them are appointed. So it makes it, in terms of accountability, that it reduces democratic accountability in the sense that who then accounts, how do they account to the people? So in terms of the UK House of Lords, so the members are appointed for life. Some even inherit peers. So with this, how do they end up accounting to people? So it becomes problematic. Duplications of function. So a function that may be done by Congress will be the same thing that is going to be done by the Senate. So in this case, you end up having what repetition or duplication of these particular functions that could actually be done by one chamber of the House. And then legislative delay. Bills may take longer or become law because both House must agree. Because House must agree, it takes a lot of time before sometimes bills may be passed, and some bills may take quite a long time. By then, maybe damages or the effect of that may have actually already occurred, and then it may not even be ready to address such events. So it is very important that sometimes bills are come out faster to address certain problems or challenging problems of society as they call upon what solutions. Yeah. So our last one has to do with the process of law making. So the process of law making, that's initiation. So bill drafting, the bill can come from what the executive or cabinet, which is the most common one in Ghana's system. But there's a private member bill that can also be initiated, where you realize that in under the eighth parliament, there was a private members bill that was initiated. That was the family health bill, where this was a private member bill, as we all, and then the e-levy was one that was also what in, initiated by government itself. Then the first reading, only the title of the bill is read to Parliament. No debate at this stage. The bill is often referred to a committee for further studies. I hope you're getting me. And proposed, and then they proposed to officially introduce what the bill, and then the committee stage. So committee examines the bill in details. So they invite public memorandum, which is the civil society experts and groups. That's how it is done. So when it was about the right to information bill, I remember journalists and civil society was also invited to come and also express their opinions or what they think can help improve the bill in question. There's a reporting stage, as in committee brings back a report to the whole house. So this report will include a recommendation or proposed amendment. And then the second reading, MPs debate the general principle of the bill. At this stage, arguments for and against are made for the bill. And so you realize that during the debate on the planting for food and jobs, the bill, MPs debated on its feasibility and the budget and all those things. So it's part of it. And then the consideration stage, MPs go through the bill clause by clause. Amendment can be made to what fine-tune the law. So the third reading, the bill is read in its final form. MPs take a final vote, really for the bill to be rejected because they've already done that and they've all gone through the whole thing. So assent, if approved, the bill is sent to the head of state, which is the president, and then the president signs into law and becomes an act of parliament. So if the president veto it, parliament may override it. In some systems with a supermajority, it depends on the system of government that is or what the constitution says for that particular country. Yeah. So you realize that in Ghana's instance where the president did not sign the family bill, we realize that it had its own challenges also. So thank you very much for joining us. Try and then like, subscribe, and then send us your comment. Thank you very much.